Ghost of Tsushima on Steam Deck. So I played this game when it released in a live stream on Steam Deck, but I never did an actual video covering it. It's unsupported, funnily enough. Valve is still working on adding support for the Steam Deck, but we have developer comments on this. So this is important. This is from May 14th last year. And it says, we know many of you are eager to play on handheld gaming devices like Steam Deck, but basically the co-op multiplayer doesn't work due to the, access to PlayStation Network integrated features. So you only have the campaign, but the co-op multiplayer doesn't work. That's why it's marked as unsupported. So everything single player actually works, but it's marked as unsupported due to the lack of co-op. What is here by default is 800p, FSR3 with dynamic resolution targeting 30 FPS. There's also frame gen that we're going to take a look at. By default it's basically medium settings and that 30 FPS target, but we can actually pull off 40s. First of all, shadow quality, it's a huge hit. There we go. A boost, level of detail as well. Terrain detail, you basically lose some of the detail on the environment like tessellation. Volumetric fog, you can turn that down. Depth of field, I recommend you keep it on high for those cutscenes, but medium for some specific moments. Reflections, low is good enough. Screen space shadows, instead of turning them off, with low we have a decent enough experience. Same with SSAO on performance. And that's basically it. That's how I recommend getting 40s. And as a plus, FSR3 or XeSS on quality or balanced. I think balanced is a better idea to have some room to spare. And I want to thank Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. Instant Gaming is a platform that sells cheaper keys for PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. They have 24/7 support and the latest games. So we got The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered for $43.57 US, The First Berserker Kazan for $47, AC Shadows for $54.89, and many more. In this case, Ghost of Tsushima, the game we're playing today, the director's cut for Steam is $35.75 US. So you can add it to your cart, buy it, you get a game for cheaper, and you support the channel at the same time. Due to this partnership, we're giving away a free game each month to one of you guys. So follow the link in the description, hit participate, follow myself and Instant Gaming in social media for more chances to win. And if you're the winner, you're going to get a game of your choice from Instant Gaming. So follow the link in the description. And thanks again to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. Let's continue. Personally, I think both look okay enough, but XeSS looks a little bit too soft in this game. And for testing performance, I'm actually in the Golden Temple because there is a decent amount of NPCs and you get all those particle effects on full swing. I think it looks fantastic, especially here, and you can see the full array of what the Steam Deck is on the performance side. So again, here for 40s, I think it would be ideal. But I'm going to show you 30s as well. As you can see, we sacrifice shadow quality, especially. And when it comes to art, the game still holds up in my opinion. Art is super important, especially when you lower the settings or you're not using, I don't know, ray tracing or stuff like that. We still have very good grass and all that, but we sacrifice the draw distance for 40 FPS. On the OLED, you can put it at 45, but it still drops sometimes when it comes to that 45 FPS target. So going in the open world, it's completely fine. The thing is, some nighttime battles sometimes could have an impact, so we're going straight into combat. Okay, so now we're going directly into combat. This is a nice place to test, in my opinion, due to basically the rain plus the amount of enemies that makes reflections in the ground. Let's see if I can start a standoff right away. Come on. Okay, I couldn't do a standoff for some reason. Oh, I can do one of those too. Oh, my bad. Okay, come on, more enemies. By the way, this game is fantastic, in my opinion. You should definitely play it, if you haven't already. It should be pretty easy actually to run, you can see. But this is not the only place to test, obviously. But as you can see, it runs better than the Golden Temple. The Golden Temple, again, has more characters, more stuff flying in the air, which is the big part of the visuals in this game, at least in my opinion. And at nighttime with rain, you got those screen space reflections in the ground, mixed with combat, and the grass moving as well, swaying in the wind. It's freaking insane. I love what they do with the visuals. I consider it super impressive also, because this is a PS4 game. It was also on PS5, don't get me wrong, and you can go beyond PS4 settings. But it just blows my mind that this, with this art style, it's actually a PS4 game. It blows my mind. Alright, now that I showed you that with unlocked frame rates, I'll show you the 30 FPS target, in this case quality FSR3 or XeSS, whichever you like the most from the comparison that I showed you, then shadows on medium, LODs on medium, same with terrain, fog on medium, depth of field on high, reflections on high, same with screen space shadows and SSAO quality, and that's basically it. You get better visuals, better draw distance, and increased resolution. And all this with a 30 FPS cap. So let me cap it to 30 to show you my point. And this should give you decent enough battery life, maybe, yeah, probably 2.5 to 3 hours on the OLED, maybe a little bit more. On the LCD, probably 90 minutes, at most 2 hours. And this gives you way better visuals, at least in my opinion, when it comes to shadow resolution, draw distance, but of course the responsiveness of the game will be affected quite significantly. 30 FPS versus 40s, believe it or not, it's a big change, especially on combat. But if you start with 30 FPS, you should get used to it rather quickly. You can also use motion blur if you're into that sort of thing. Another combat scenario with a good amount of stuff going on. I mean, just look at the amount of grass that we got here. It's kind of crazy. There we go. It detected my standoff, finally. Come on. I double dare you. Anybody else? Of course, yes. Dead. Yeah, no chance against Jin. So as you can see here, look at that grass, how awesome it looks. All those highlights on the grass, each blade. Yeah, it's insane. And the enemies didn't even hear me. Awesome. So let's get into combat with them right away. I'm going to light my sword on fire. If I remember the button. There we go. It's been a while since I played this. So now we got transparencies as well. But it doesn't last super long. Okay, more combat, hell yeah. Okay. Sticky bomb. So yeah, if you want to play with the quote-unquote best visuals possible on Steam Deck, I'll probably use this setting. You're not going to get this level of visuals with anything different than low settings. Sorry. You won't be able to get this good visuals targeting 40 FPS. Just not gonna happen, unfortunately. So let me show you how it looks like on the smaller screen. Okay, so now I locked to 40 FPS. So we're at 80 Hz on the Steam Deck OLED. Sorry about the flickering, that's my camera, records at 60 Hz, so I cannot match the shutter speed, unfortunately. So 800p, balanced FSR3. Then when it comes to graphics, basically low, 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 medium, low, low, and performance. And that's basically it. That should keep you at 40. And the screen flickering in real life, you're not going to notice it. This is, again, just the camera. No, with the shutter speed not matching what the Steam Deck is showing at 40s. So don't worry, the game still looks how it should be. But I gotta say, it feels way smoother. Which makes sense. That's how it should be. And while 10 FPS might not seem like a big deal, in a game with fast-paced combat and precision required as this one, I think it's a good idea to target this, but you're obviously sacrificing graphics quite significantly. Especially if you look at those effects of fire into the distance. As I get closer, they pop in. Same with the environments. So sacrifices need to be made if you want a smoother experience, but that's the choice. If you want to basically play this with better visuals, you can always target 30 FPS, that's not a problem. So again, it's nice to have options, at least in my opinion. And now back into the open world. Again, you can see the pop-in of the shadows especially, and the draw distance of the grass. But the responsiveness is unmatched in comparison to 30. All up to you, really. There we go. So again, things like this require timing. Feel significantly better at 40s. Which makes sense. Might be 10 FPS, but is 30% faster than 30 FPS. Or dare I say 30% smoother. And there we go. With these two atoms. But man, the art style always blows me away on this game. Even on low settings. Oh no. Boom, headshot. Alright. So yeah, personally I would play at these settings, but I think it's fantastic at 40 FPS for responsiveness. But many of you guys asked me about frame generation, and this game does feature frame gen. And since you guys always ask as well, manual GPU clock, we'll keep it at 1400 or 1500 to help the GPU maintain everything that it's doing. And sorry, I forgot to disable the frame limit. There we go. And we have a base of 40 something, which helps a lot in comparison to other new games that we're targeting, like... Yeah, 30 FPS is the only option. I see people in games that have very low performance saying, oh yeah, use frame gen, it makes the game completely playable. I disagree, there's input lag. Even with a 40 FPS base, usually Nvidia and AMD recommend a minimum of 60 to use frame gen. But in this case, with a base of 40-45, I deem it acceptable. The responsiveness is definitely an issue, is less responsive. I wouldn't say it's unplayable. I mean, I can still land those counters. And when it comes to visuals, the artifacting is not as bad as in other games, so I would say it's a good enough implementation. But you gotta make sure that the base frame rate is at least 40-45, like I'm doing right now. So yeah, I don't think frame gen on this one is a bad idea if you're fine with the extra input lag. If you start playing the game from scratch with these settings, maybe you can already get used to it. But in my opinion, just locking it to 40 looks smooth enough, responds very, very well to the inputs, and you're not sacrificing the timing for the combat. So yeah, basically this game is not verified because Sony doesn't want to. So yeah, you heard me right. Sony doesn't want to, because if the co-op multiplayer worked on Linux, we will be able to play the multiplayer here, no problem. and Valve will say, okay, now it's verified, you can access all the features in the game. That's basically what they're saying. But since that doesn't work on Linux, the PlayStation Network stuff, we're basically on unsupported territory. Personally, I would just mark it as playable if I was Valve, but hey, what can you do? Yeah, I'm not going to win this, obviously, with that input lag. But again, the input lag, in my opinion, is noticeable. But I played a lot of this game at 60, 40s, 30s, and there's nothing quite like not having frame gen input lag, at least in my opinion. So if you want to use it, the option is there, and it's pretty good with a base of 40 to 45. But again, I recommend against it. And some of the UI has some minor things that needs fixing when using FrameGen, which again I don't think is a huge deal, but definitely noticeable over not using FrameGen. So would I recommend this game on Steam Deck? Hell yeah, fantastic game, and at the same time runs pretty damn well on Steam Deck, all things considered. It's not the best looking game in the world, but when it comes to the art style, they kicked it out of the park, without a doubt. Okay, so at one of my sides you can see FSR3, and at the other side XeSS. XeSS, in my opinion, just looks way too soft in comparison to FSR3 in this case, but FSR3 doesn't handle particles super well, and this game has a lot of that flying on screen most of the time. Personally, I rather use, in this case, FSR3 due to the extra sharpness to the image, but again, it can also look chunky and break some of the particle effects. When it comes to performance, they're basically the same, so your choice. To finish up this video, this is what it looks like when I'm targeting 30, and this is what it looks like when I'm targeting the 40s. So as you can see, there is sacrifices in visuals and resolution, but the responsiveness of the game is unmatched. 40s versus 30s. 40s is fantastically smooth in comparison. So yeah guys, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did taking a look again at Ghost of Tsushima. Fantastic game, highly recommended, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.